Good morning, everyone. Myself, Lukesh Kedu, Assistant Professor, Information Technology Department, Shahadankar Kutch Engineering College, welcomes you all on the fifth day, session 1 of AICT IST sponsored 1 week online refresher program on developing secure IoT applications, organized by IT Department SAKEC. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce our esteemed speaker, Mr. Arshdeep Bagasar. He is Director, Cloudami Technology Labs, LLP, Chandigarh. He is a computer science researcher and co-author of Hands-on Approach book series. He is noted for his research work and textbooks in the area of blockchain, Internet of Things, cloud computing, and big data. His books are widely accepted at worldwide universities, undergraduate and graduate level courses. His cloud computing books has been recognized by ACM Computing Reviews. He worked as a research scientist at Georgia Institute of Technology from 2010 to 2016. He is awarded by Research Spotlight Award for his research work in the area of cloud computing and big data. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today. Now, sir is going to enlighten us on the topic of blockchain for securing IoT. Now, I would like to request our speaker to start the session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Lukesh, for the introduction. Okay, so good morning, everyone, and welcome to this session on blockchain for securing the Internet of Things. So in this session, we'll discuss how blockchain technology can be used to secure IoT systems. So let's get started with this session. Let's look at a brief introduction to IoT. So what is IoT?
Sorry to interrupt you, sir. Please minimize that small window at the bottom right.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. Yeah.
So IoT, it comprises things which have unique identities and they are connected to the internet. The things in IoT refers to devices which have unique identities and they can perform remote sensing, actuation, and monitoring. And these devices can exchange data with other connected devices and applications. They can collect data from devices and process the data either locally, or they can send data to centralized servers or cloud-based application backends. And certain tasks can be performed locally, while others can be done within the IoT infrastructure based on the temporal and spatial constraints of the application involved. So if you look at the definition of Internet of Things, IoT is a dynamic global network infrastructure comprising having self-configuring capabilities based on standard and interoperable communication protocols, where physical and virtual things have identities, physical attributes, virtual personalities, and they use intelligent interfaces and are seamlessly integrated into the information network. So if you look at this definition, the key concepts or characteristics of IoT to be captured from this definition are, firstly, the IoT systems are dynamic and self-adapting in nature. So in an IoT network, the nodes can drop off from the network and rejoin the network. And these nodes are self-configuring in nature. So the IoT systems have self-configuring capabilities. Then we use interoperable communication protocols in IoT networks. Devices have unique identities, and these devices are integrated into the information network. So these devices are able to send data to the backend systems or the cloud-based servers or application backends. So these are the key characteristics of IoT. Now coming on to a generic block diagram of an IoT device. So an IoT device, typically it comprises of various components and modules like a processor, CPU, a graphics GPU. Then we have audio video interfaces, storage interfaces, input output interfaces, connectivity modules, and memory interfaces. So what are the building blocks of an IoT device? We have sensors, which are either onboard on the IoT device or they can be attached to the device. And these sensors allow the device to monitor its physical, the environment in its vicinity. So sensors are able to gather data on various parameters like temperature, humidity, light levels. Various gaseous sensors can be attached to devices. Then we have actuators. Actuators are devices which allow taking actions upon the physical entities in the vicinity of a device. So for example, an actuator can be a relay which can be used to turn on or switch on a light appliance, or activate the release of water through irrigation pipes. So like this, we can have various sorts of actuators connected to IoT devices. Then we have communication modules, which are responsible for sending the data collected to other devices or cloud-based servers or storage backends, where the data can be stored and analyzed. Next, we have analysis and processing modules, which are responsible for making sense of the data which is collected in the cloud. So that these were the building blocks of an IoT device. Now let's look at the logical design of an IoT system. So what the logical design means, it refers to the abstract representations of the entities and processes without going into the low-level implementation specifics. So if you look at the logical design of an IoT system, typically we have a device functional group. On top of that, we have communication and services. Then we have a management and security functional groups. And on top of that, we have the application. So these are the typical functional blocks or functional groups which are involved in an IoT system. Now let's look at some of the top threats, security vulnerabilities related to IoT devices. So IoT systems can be subject to various sorts of threats like cryptojacking, where hackers may hijack a device and they can actually run some programs to mine cryptocurrency on IoT devices. Then devices may be subject to phishing attacks, passwords may be stolen, botnets can be launched through IoT devices. Then backdoor Trojans can be sent to IoT devices. Then various sorts of ransomware and worm attacks can be subject to these IoT devices. So there are various sorts of attacks that can happen on IoT networks and IoT devices. And we need to address these security issues and vulnerabilities. And that's where blockchain will help us in addressing some of these issues. Now let's look at some of the key security areas for IoT systems and IoT devices. So firstly, we have the area of authentication, which refers to digitally confirming the identity of entity which is requesting access to certain protected information. In IoT and cloud systems where applications they are accessed over the internet, there is the complexity of these authentication mechanisms. It increases rapidly. So we need to authenticate devices on the network. Next area is the area of authorization, which refers to digitally specifying the access rights to protected resources using various access policies. So even if a device is authenticated on the network, it may not have the access rights to certain protected resources. So these access rights, they are specified using various access policies that comes under the area of authorization. Next area is the area of securing data at rest. Since IoT systems, they can use cloud-based backends which have multi-tenant environments, which means that the data belonging to different clients may be residing on the same physical infrastructure, since multi-tenancy is used in cloud applications. We need to ensure that the data is stored securely, and the security of data at rest becomes of prime importance. So for securing data at rest, we can use various encryption mechanisms. Next area is the area of securing data in motion. So while the data is being transmitted from the device to the cloud, we need to ensure that the data is sent in a secure manner from the device to the cloud. So for securing data in motion, we can use mechanisms like secure socket layer or transport layer security, TLS, and these communication can happen in a secure manner. Then we have the area of data integrity, which ensures that the data is not altered in an unauthorized manner after it is being created or transmitted or stored. So data integrity ensures that no man in the middle is able to alter the data while it is being transmitted, or once the data is stored, it should not be altered in an unauthorized manner. Then finally, we have the area of auditing. Auditing mechanisms are required to get visibility into the application, the data accesses, and the actions performed by various users on the data which is stored. So that was a brief introduction to the IoT, Internet of Things, the various security vulnerabilities and the areas of securing IoT. Now let's look at blockchain technology briefly. So blockchain is a distributed data structure comprising a chain of blocks. Blockchain it acts as a distributed database or a global ledger which maintains records of all transactions on a blockchain network. And these transactions, they are timestamped and bundled into blocks, where each block is referencing the cryptographic hash of its previous block. And these blocks, they form a linear sequence where the block is referencing the hash of its previous block, and then they form a chain of blocks, which is called the blockchain structure. So this is how the blockchain structure is visualized. I mean, we have various blocks, and these blocks are referencing the hash of its previous block, and the blocks are added in a chain. That's why it's called a blockchain structure. So here is a visualization of the Ethereum blockchain structure. Ethereum is one of the popular public blockchain networks. And in this visualization, you can see that we have various blocks in a chain. And each block has the transactions which are bundled into the blocks. And on the bottom left, you can see the transactions which haven't been mined or processed on the network yet. And once these transactions are processed or mined, they are bundled into blocks, and these blocks are added to the chain. So here is a visualization. It's a depiction of the blockchain structure. In the blockchain structure, we use a special data structure called Merkle tree. So instead of storing the entire transaction data within the block itself, which will make the block very bulky in nature, we store only the root hash of the Merkle tree within the block. So Merkle tree is a special data structure in which the leaf nodes, they are storing the data on various transactions. And then we compute the hash of these leaf nodes all the way up till the root node. And we store only the root hash of the Merkle tree within a block. So that makes the blocks lightweight. And at the same time, we can store the entire transaction data outside the block in a Merkle tree. And these Merkle trees, they protect the integrity of the data. So here is an example of a Merkle tree. So here we have various leaf nodes which store data items from 0 to 7. And then we compute the hash of these leaf nodes all the way up till the root node. Now let's say if we modify and a hacker is trying to change any data item stored in a leaf node. So hacker replaces the leaf node 0 with another data item. Then this will result in a different hash, and these hashes propagate all the way up till the root node, resulting in a different root hash. And that root hash will not be part of the canonical chain. So that's how hashes protect the integrity of data. And this makes the blockchain structure immutable in nature. So once a transaction has been processed and mined on the network and it has been bundled into a block, there is no way that we can go back in history and change any transaction. So blockchain structure is immutable in nature. Now coming on to the blockchain evolution and how these blockchain networks have evolved over time. The current technology of blockchain, it was introduced less than a decade ago by a fictitious person named Satoshi Nakamoto in the paper titled Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, where Nakamoto proposed that we can have a peer-to-peer version of an electronic cash system, which will allow payments to be made from one party to another without the need for a trusted third party or financial institution. Since there is no trusted third party involved, or there is no centralized financial institution involved, we need some mechanism to prevent double spending of data. And double spending of data can happen when a person manages to send the same money from the wallet to different users. So let's say if a user has 100 bitcoins in his wallet, the user can send the same 100 bitcoins to different users. Then that's called double spending. And we should prevent double spending on any network. When we have a centralized financial institution or a centralized authority, double spending can easily be identified and prevented. So for example, banks, they use centralized ledgers and they maintain records of the account balances in each and every account in the ledger. And that's how they can easily prevent double spending. However, in case of peer-to-peer networks, it becomes a really challenging task. So what Nakamoto proposed, he identified two key requirements to prevent double spending. So he proposed that we should publicly announce all transactions. Secondly, we should have a system for the participants to agree on the transactions and their sequence. So these two requirements, they led to the development of the blockchain technology. The first generation blockchain network was introduced along with the cryptocurrency Bitcoin. And the primary application of this blockchain network was the electronic cash system or the cryptocurrency Bitcoin. Then in 2013, Vitalik Buterin, he proposed that we can have an open and programmable blockchain platform where different applications can be developed on top of the programmable blockchain platform. And these applications take the form of a smart contract. And smart contract is it's basically a piece of code implemented in a high level language that is deployed on a blockchain network. So that was a brief introduction to the blockchain technology and the evolution of blockchain networks. Now let's look at the area of integration of blockchain with IoT. So what value does blockchain technology bring to IoT systems? So blockchain can enable device democracy where devices are able to autonomously execute transactions. Blockchain enable an economy of things where devices, they become part of the value exchange in an IoT system. It enables transaction acceleration where we can have a wider use of automatic transactions. So devices need not depend on a centralized authority or a financial institution. They can autonomously transact on the blockchain network. And it also reduces costs since no centralized authority is involved. It makes the networks more simpler, and the devices can transact directly with each another device. So blockchain here, it's helping in decentralization of Internet of Things. So before 2005, we had closed and centralized IoT networks. Then today, I mean, although we have more open IoT networks, but the cloud is still centralized, and these devices have to depend on the centralized clouds for various activities like for coordination, for sending transactions to other devices. Whereas with the introduction of blockchain technology and integration with IoT networks, the networks will become open access and the cloud will be distributed in nature. So blockchain helps in decentralization of Internet of Things. In any decentralized IoT solution, it can support three foundational types of transactions. Firstly, it can support trustless peer-to-peer messaging. So what that means is that even if the devices are they do not trust each other and there is no centralized authority, still the devices are able to exchange messages to each another in a peer-to-peer fashion. Then decentralized IoT solution, it supports secure distributed data sharing. So devices can share data with each other in a distributed manner. And also it supports a robust and scalable form of device coordination. So devices are able to coordinate with each other in a peer-to-peer manner without any centralized cloud being involved. So why blockchain works for IoT? Blockchain is able to free up centralized systems which are bottlenecked by trusted and centralized human authorities. And blockchain enables a decentralization of Internet of Things by facilitating transaction processing and coordination among interacting devices. So these devices are able to coordinate with each other and transact with each other without the need for any centralized system. And blockchain enables a low-cost, private by design democracy of devices, where these devices are able to transact with each other, and it helps in offering consumers and enterprises better products and better user experience. So here is an example of IoT device empowerment using blockchain technology. So here we have a smart lock system called Slockit. So in this smart lock, it is connected to a blockchain network, and this lock can be used to rent a real world physical objects, like this lock may be attached to a property or a bicycle or a car, and user can send a transaction from the user's wallet directly to the wallet of this smart lock to unlock this lock for certain duration. So that's how using blockchain technology, you can directly enable transactions like user to device transaction, where these transactions are processed in a decentralized manner. Another example is the Adept project by IBM and Samsung, where they have developed IoT and blockchain based smart washer. And what this washer does, it's able to monitor its current level of consumables like the detergent levels, and it can directly send a transaction to the smart contract between the washer and the supplier, consumable supplier, and the washer can place orders for replenishment of the detergent whenever it finds the levels are low. Secondly, it can also negotiate energy and power usage with other connected devices within the same house, and it can also monitor its current state, and it can place service requests orders by sending a transaction to the smart contract between the washer and the service vendor. So that's how the device empowerment is done through the use of blockchain technology. So devices are not dependent on any other external other systems or even humans. They can just transact with various entities and stakeholders involved in a autonomous manner. So here are some applications of blockchain for Internet of Things. So let's look at some applications. So first application is the area of connected vehicles, where IoT and blockchain technologies, they can be used to enable smart applications for connected vehicles. For example, we can store the identification information of vehicles, the warranty information, insurance and vehicle maintenance records, owner information. So all these types of information they can be stored on the blockchain network. Next, we have smart appliances. So as I discussed, the smart washer. Similarly, we can have other types of smart appliances which are able to monitor their current level of consumables, or they can place service request orders or part replenishment orders directly by sending transactions to the smart contracts between the appliance and the supplier or the service vendor. Another application is the smart parking systems, which can use IoT and blockchain technologies to enable direct consumer to parking meter or vehicle to parking meter transactions. Then we have smart locks, which I just discussed. It can be used to rent real world physical objects like houses, cars, or bikes, and you can send transaction directly from your blockchain wallet to a smart lock. Now let's look at some application of blockchain and IoT for supply chain. So blockchain and IoT technologies, they can be together used for supply chain tracking. For example, the food items, they can be tracked directly from their point of origin to the consumer. So you can have smart contracts which can be used to maintain various tracking information of food items as they move from their farms to the shelves on the grocery stores. And you can even store timestamp locations within the smart contracts on a blockchain platform. So the entire supply chain can be tracked directly from their origin to the consumer. Next, we have the application in shipment tracking, where IoT and blockchain technologies, they can be used for tracking shipments, and we can identify the location of the shipments through the use of technologies like RFID, near field communication, and Bluetooth low energy tags. And as these shipments move from their source to destination, the timestamp location information can be recorded within smart contracts, and the access to this tracking information can be provided to all the stakeholders involved. Next, we look at some application of blockchain and IoT for industry. Blockchain platforms, they can enable on-demand manufacturing, and we can have a marketplace of manufacturing services where the machines have their own blockchain accounts, and the users are able to provision these machines and transact with these machines directly to avail various manufacturing services. For example, a CNC machine or a 3D printer may have its own blockchain account, and we can enable a marketplace of such machines, and users are able to send manufacturing jobs directly to these machines and send payments directly to these machines for availing various on-demand manufacturing services. Next, we have the application in smart diagnostics and machine maintenance. So we can use blockchain for smart diagnostics applications where these various machines, they are able to monitor their state, and they can diagnose problems and also autonomously place service request orders or consumable replenishment orders or part replacement orders to the machine maintenance vendors. Next, we have traceability applications for various manufactured products, and smart contracts can be used for keeping records of various traceability information. For example, for every product, which factory in which factory the product was manufactured, which machines were used to manufacture a particular product. This entire traceability information is maintained within smart contracts. Then we have other applications like supply chain tracking and product certifications, where we can store in product information like the facility details, machine details, manufacturing details, the various parts used within the product. All these details can be stored on a blockchain, and products can be certified on the blockchain. In the area of energy, we have applications like the solar charging stations. For example, we can use blockchain and IoT technologies to develop solar charging stations where you can connect your devices or electric vehicles and enable directly activate these charging stations for a certain duration by sending payments directly from your wallet to the charging station's account. Next, we have application in microgrids. So what is a microgrid? It's a localized grouping of electricity generation sources and loads. And within a microgrid, the electricity generation sources, such as the renewable energy sources, they can be connected to the energy consumers in the same locality. And blockchain platforms, along with microgrids, can be used where the users can buy and sell renewable energy directly to their neighbors. So this was a brief discussion on the application of blockchain and IoT technologies in various domains. Now let's look at the area of securing Internet of Things with blockchain technology. So how blockchain technology can be used to secure the Internet of Things. So firstly, we can have secure communication between IoT devices through the use of blockchain technology. So how that can be achieved? So whenever, let's say, a device wants to send data to another device, the device can encrypt the data, and the encryption keys used for this purpose, they can be such data, the keys can be stored in a secure manner on a ledger or on a blockchain network. So when a device sends an encrypted message, it encrypts the message using the public key of the destination device, which is stored on a blockchain network. So when device A wants to send a message to device B, it checks the blockchain network. It retrieves the public key of the device B from the blockchain network, and then it encrypts the message using the public key of the destination device and sends the message. So when the receiver receives the message, it is able to decrypt the same message using its private key. So that's how we can enable secure communication with between IoT devices where the messages can be encrypted. Next area is the area of authentication of users. So whenever a device or a user sends a message to another device, the same can be digitally signed. So how digital signature works? The sender of the message first, the sender calculates a hash of the message, which is encrypted with the private key of the sender. So this is the digital signature. So digital signature along with the original message is transmitted to the uh, destination device or the receiver. And when the receiver receives the message, it decrypts the digital signature using the public key of the sender. And this public key is stored in a ledger or on a blockchain network. And then after decrypting the digital signature, the receiver is able to obtain the hash of the message. And since the original message is also sent along with the digital signature, the receiver can compute the hash of the same message. So if these two hash values, the calculated hash and the protected hash, they match, then it means the message is valid and it hasn't been altered by any unauthorized entity in the while in the communication process. So using digital signatures, we can improve trust between devices, and each and every message is digitally signed by the sender, and a receiver is able to verify the authenticity of the message. Next, we can use blockchain for discovering legitimate Internet of Things at large scale. So whenever a new IoT device starts, and it can register on the register itself on a root server. So it can check a list of all the other trusted nodes within the network. And this device then registers itself and it can exchange information with other devices. So the list of trusted nodes can be maintained on a blockchain network. And these devices can obtain a list of trusted devices and start exchange of information. So this helps in discovering legitimate Internet of Things devices at a large scale. Finally, we can use IoT and blockchain technology for securely configuring devices. So properties of IoT devices like configuration details, latest firmware information, they can be stored on a public ledger or on a blockchain network. And during the bootstrap process, the blockchain node is asked to get its latest configuration from the ledger. So the hash value of the latest configuration file and latest firmware version, it is stored on the ledger, and the network continuously monitors the current configuration files on the current firmware versions on each and every device. And any devices with bad configurations, they can be removed and from the network, and they can be updated and rebooted so that all the devices are secure and they are able to communicate with each other in a secure manner. So here are some shortcomings of IoT devices and how blockchain is able to address these shortcomings. So there are shortcomings with respect to high costs due to centralized authorities. And since blockchain technology doesn't involve any third party or centralized authorities, and it makes devices more autonomous in nature, so it results in reduction of costs. Also, there is no single point of failure. Since blockchain technology is a peer-to-peer technology, there is no centralized authority involved, and there is no single point of failure. So it can prevent bottlenecks and single point of failures. Then there are various other shortcomings which are addressed with respect to the availability, scalability, privacy, authentication, and credibility. Now let's look at some of the concerns which need to be addressed before we integrate blockchain technology with IoT. So there are concerns with respect to decentralization, scalability, and security of blockchain networks. And there are trade-offs that exist between decentralization, scalability, and security, which need to be addressed to integrate blockchain with IoT networks. So while commercial payment networks, we know they can process thousands of transactions per second, blockchain networks, they can process only a few transactions per second. So scalability is a big challenge currently for blockchain networks. And the reason is the The block time for blockchain network, so the time after which a new block is generated, there is a limit on how small the block time or block interval can be made. The reason is, if we reduce the block time or block interval below a certain limit, that leads to centralization of the network because the blocks are not able to propagate to the entire network. So to quantify these challenges with respect to decentralization, scalability, and security, I've come up with this new framework that's called the DSS framework or the DSS theorem, which states that the levels of decentralization, scalability, and security, they are tunable for a blockchain network subject to these following constraints. Where I say that the level of security is inversely proportional to the level of decentralization, and the level of decentralization is directly proportional to the level of security. So these are the DSS constraints. Now let's look at these constraints in more detail. So if we look at the scalability and security dimension, what we have here is the level of scalability in a blockchain network. It is inversely proportional to the level of security. So if a blockchain network is scaled up to increase the transaction throughput or decrease the transaction latency, the level of security on the network decreases. The reason is, for example, if we use a scale-up measure like reducing the block interval period, that is the time after which a new block is added to a blockchain structure, this reduces the level of security because it leads to production of large number of stale blocks on the network. So if you reduce the block interval, the latest block which is mined on a blockchain network will not propagate to all the miners on the network, and the other miners which are mining on a stale block or a previous block, they will not contribute to the security of the network. So if we increase scalability, the level of security on the network decreases. So there is a trade-off. I mean, the level of security and scalability, they are tunable subject to certain constraints. Similarly, we have constraints between scalability and level of decentralization on the network. So scalability in a blockchain network, it's inversely proportional to the level of decentralization. If we scale up a blockchain network to increase the transaction throughput or decrease the transaction latency, the level of decentralization of the network also decreases. For example, let's say we scale up a blockchain network by increasing the block size. So if you increase the block size, then you can have more number of transactions bundled within a block, and that increases the transaction throughput. But there is a side effect of increasing the block size. It results in reducing the level of decentralization of the network. Why? Because when the block size increases, the computational requirements for the nodes to mine on the network, they become high. And then small miners, they do not have any chance to mine successfully on the network. So that leads to centralization of the network. So if you increase scalability, the level of decentralization decreases. So scalability and decentralization, they are tunable with respect to certain constraints. Finally, we have decentralization and securities. So the level of decentralization in a blockchain network, it's directly proportional to the level of security, or it's inversely proportional to the level of insecurity. So what we say here is that if you have a more decentralized network, it will be more secure in nature. The reason is, I mean, the more amount of decentralization on the network, there is a less chance that the miners will be able to collude and they can perform a 51% attack where they can rewrite the blockchain history and they can do double spending to their own advantage by executing a 51% attack. If 51% nodes on a blockchain network, they collude and they can rewrite blockchain history. So larger is the decentralization, less is the, more is the security on the network because there is less chance of 51% attack. Now we can quantify the level of decentralization security and scalability. So let's look at how we quantify decentralization. So using parameters like the total number of nodes in a network, the number of peers connected to each node, the minimum bandwidth requirement, minimum processing power, minimum disk I/O and memory requirement for each node to successfully mine on a blockchain network, and the bootstrap time for a node to start mining on the network. So these various parameters, they determine the level of decentralization. To quantify scalability, we can use parameters like the transaction throughput, which is the number of transactions processed on the network per second, and the transaction latency, which is the time taken to process a transaction. So transaction throughput and latency can be used to quantify scalability of the network. Then we have security. We can quantify security using parameters like the stale block rate and the block propagation delay. So stale block rate is the rate at which the network is generating stale blocks. Stale blocks are the blocks which are not contributing to the network security. And stale block production happens when the miners are actually mining on a previous block. The latest block doesn't propagate to the miner, so they are mining on an old or the stale data. That's why they are generating stale blocks. And block propagation delay is the delay between the production of a new block and when the block reaches the miners on the network. So that's how we can quantify scalability, decentralization, security. And there is a theorem called CAP theorem. That's consistency, availability, and partition tolerance for distributed data systems, which states that there is a trade-off which exists between consistency and availability. So what CAP theorem states that for distributed data systems under partitioning, these data systems, they can either be consistent or they can be available, but we cannot have both consistency and availability at the same time. So according to CAP theorem, the system can either favor consistency and partition tolerance over availability, or it can favor availability and partition tolerance over consistency. So consistency and availability cannot be achieved at the same time. So in case of blockchain networks, it gives up on consistency and it is available and partition tolerant. Now, this new DSS theorem which we've proposed, it is complementary to the CAP theorem as well. So both DSS and CAP theorem, they apply to the blockchain networks. So according to CAP theorem, if we apply it to the blockchain network, the network is always available and it is eventually consistent. I mean, we cannot have consistency within a blockchain network. It is eventually consistent. And according to DSS theorem for blockchain networks, we cannot have simultaneously high levels of decentralization, scalability, and security. So both DSS and CAP theorems, they are compatible and complementary, and they apply to the blockchain networks. So that was a brief discussion on the scalability aspects, security, and decentralized aspects of blockchain networks. Now, coming to a case study, let's look at a blockchain platform for industrial Internet of Things. So this is the platform which I've developed along with my colleagues at Georgia Tech. And this platform, it enables cloud-based manufacturing services, and it basically enhances cloud-based manufacturing platforms by providing decentralized, trustless, and peer-to-peer network for manufacturing applications, where the smart contracts, they act as agreements between the consumers of service consumers and the manufacturing resources, which provide on-demand manufacturing services. So your machines like 3D printers and CNC machines, they can provide on-demand manufacturing services through cloud-based manufacturing platforms. And this blockchain platform for industrial IoT is able to enhance the existing cloud-based manufacturing platforms, and it enables the devices to receive transactions directly from the users. And the users are able to send transactions to the blockchain network, and devices are connected to the blockchain network they can receive orders directly from the blockchain network, and the payments can also be done to the devices directly in a decentralized manner. The key enabler of this blockchain platform for industrial IoT is an IoT device as shown here. So this IoT device, it enables existing machines to communicate with the cloud as well as a blockchain network. So we have a device which which includes an interface board and a single board computer. The interface board is equipped with various sensors and actuators, and the interface board is connected to a machine like a CNC machine. The interface board is able to gather data from the machine, and it also has various actuators for sending control commands to the machines. And this data is communicated over a sensor bridge to the single board computer. Within the single board computer, we have various modules like connectivity modules to the cloud-based backend. And then we also have a blockchain service for connection with the blockchain network. And also each device maintains its own blockchain wallet and its own local storage. And then we have various input-output interfaces. We have a device manager, sensor and actuator connectivity drivers are installed on this device, and a controller service which runs on the IoT device. So this firmware image of the blockchain platform for industrial IoT, it's deployed on a single board computer. And we have various interfaces which are implemented within this firmware image. We have a northbound interface, southbound, eastbound, and westbound interfaces. So northbound interface, it allows the IoT device to publish data to the cloud. And for communication with the cloud, we are using various protocols like the MQTT protocol, which is the message queue telemetry transport protocol, or we can use REST over HTTPS for communication with the cloud. And the device has various cloud connectivity libraries which are installed on the IoT device. Within the cloud, we have services and modules like the big data analytics stack is there within the cloud. We have various billing and metering services and smart manufacturing applications which can be developed within the cloud. Next, we have the southbound interface. Southbound interface is the sensor bridge, and it's the interface between the interface board and the single board computer. And it allows the single board computer to capture sensor data from the interface board and also send control signals to the actuators which are connected to the interface board. So if you look at the reference design of an interface board, we have various sensors which are connected to the interface board, and also actuators may be connected. So sensors like proximity, circuit detection, barcode reader, accelerometer, pressure sensors, temperature, humidity, and various other sorts of sensors can be attached to an interface board, and it has a serial connection to the single board computer. Next, we have the eastbound interface, which is enabling connectivity to external systems over digital analog, serial, and USB connections. And also for wireless connectivity, we use various wireless communication protocols like Zigbee, LoRa, and Bluetooth Low Energy. And using this eastbound interface, these devices are able to communicate with their peers in the same network. Finally, we have the westbound interface. Westbound interface is the interface. It's the admin bridge which allows managing and configuring the IoT device, just like you would configure a router in a remote manner. So it allows you to configure the device remotely. And for this purpose, we are using the network configuration protocol, which is a session-based management protocol. And it allows retrieving the current state or the configuration data on the device, or you can manipulate the configuration data on the devices using the netconf protocol. Now coming on to the deployment topologies, we can have different deployment topologies within the blockchain platform for industrial IoT. So first is the point-to-point topology. This is the simplest topology, which includes an end node and a gateway node. So end node is connected over a wireless link to the gateway node. And for this purpose, we can use protocols like Zigbee and LoRa. End node sends data to the gateway over a wireless link, and gateway is directly connected to the internet, and it publishes data to the internet or to the cloud over REST or MQTT connection. Next, we have a star topology, where we have a single gateway node and multiple end nodes, which are connected directly over a wireless link to the gateway. And gateway then publishes data to the cloud. Finally, we have a mesh topology, which comprises a number of end nodes, router nodes, and a single gateway. So mesh topology, it helps in extending the range of the network, and as the range is no longer limited to a single hop, as in case of a star topology. So we have router nodes which route data from the end nodes to the gateway node. And for this mesh network, we can use protocols like the Zigbee Digimesh protocol. Now, within the blockchain platform for industrial IoT, we can have different sorts of devices. We can have end nodes, which implement the southbound, eastbound, and westbound interfaces. And they are connected over a wireless link to the gateway. We can have a router node, which routes data from the end node to the gateway. So router nodes, they implement eastbound and westbound interfaces. Then we have gateway node, which receives data from the end nodes and it sends data to the cloud. And gateway implements the northbound, eastbound, and westbound interfaces. Or we can have a full node. So full node implements all the 4 interfaces. Now let's look at one more case study and one more reference application. That's a blockchain and IoT powered solar charging stations. And we'll also look at a decentralized application backed by a smart contract and how this blockchain technology can be used for creating solar charging stations, which are by which, I mean, you can send transactions to these charging stations directly from a mobile application, but there is no centralized authority or a financial institution involved in processing such transactions. So you are sending a transaction from your wallet to the charging station's wallet, and this transaction is processed in a decentralized manner on a blockchain network. And when the transaction is processed and validated, the charging station, it gets activated for a certain duration, depending on the amount you have paid to the charging station's account. So this is the architecture of the solar charging stations. Here we have a server which runs an Ethereum node, and also it exposes various web APIs. And the mobile application, it calls the REST APIs, which are exposed by the server. And also we have the IoT device, which also calls the REST APIs on the server. And server is connected to a blockchain network, such as the Ethereum public blockchain network. So to set up this application, firstly, we have a contract owner, the smart contract owner, who deploys the smart contract on a blockchain network. So then owner adds various solar charging stations to the smart contract. So we may have multiple solar charging stations deployed at various locations, and the contract owner adds the details of each and every charging station, the location of the charging station, the rate per minute for that charging station is specified. Then we have users who are able to register with the smart contract associated with the charging stations, and users can purchase a virtual currency that's called solar coins. So solar coins is just a virtual coin or a virtual currency. And to purchase solar coins, the user can pay the smart contract in the Ether currency. Ether is the native cryptocurrency for the Ethereum blockchain network. So by paying certain units of Ether currency, users can get certain number of solar coins. And then these solar coins are used for activating charging stations for certain durations. So whenever a user visits a solar charging station, your user wants to activate the charging station for certain duration. the user can pay the charging station using solar coins from the user's wallet to the charging station's account. So here is the prototype of the system where we have a BeagleBone Black single board computer, which is connected to a blockchain network on which the smart contract for solar charging stations is deployed. And we have users who can send transactions to the smart contract associated with the solar charging stations. And when a transaction is sent to a charging station, the station gets activated for a certain duration, and then user can plug their device, like the electric vehicle or mobile phone or any device they want to charge. They can connect their device to the charging station. And here is a actual prototype based on BeagleBone Black single board computer, a relay module, and we have a universal plug. So let's look at a demo of the mobile application. So here we have the Georgia Tech's solar charge application. In this, user when logs in, user can access the wallet for the particular system, the solar charge system, and user can purchase solar coins. Here you can see the user's wallet information. In this, you can see the user's details, name, email, address, the blockchain address of the user's wallet, the amount of Ether which user has paid, and the solar coin balance in the user's wallet. And then user can scan the code of any solar charging station, or also user can enter the unique address or unique ID of the charging station. So here the user is scanning the QR code of a charging station. And when the user scans the QR code, the transaction is sent from the user's wallet to the blockchain network. So here the user scans the QR code of the charging station. It shows the details of the charging station, where it is located, what is the rate per minute for activating the charging station. So now let's say user wants to charge a device for 1 minute. So now user has to pay 10 solar coins. And then user confirms the transaction. It is sent to the blockchain network, and then it is processed on the blockchain network. And the IoT device, this is the IoT device, the BeagleBone Black. It is monitoring the status of the smart contract. And whenever it detects that a new payment has been done by a user for that particular device, it activates the relay module for a certain duration. So now when a user makes a payment, you see here this device got activated. Now user can connect their whatever device they want to charge, and then after a certain duration it gets deactivated. So depending on how much solar coins the user has paid to this charging station, it gets activated for that much duration. So with this, I will like to wrap up my session for today. And here is a list of books which I have co-authored along with my co-author, Professor Vijay Madisetti from Georgia Tech. So we have authored a series of textbooks on cloud, IoT, big data, blockchain, and cloud solutions architect. So you can refer to these books for more such discussions on these topics. So now I'm open to your questions. If you have any questions, you can let me know.
Thank you, sir, for your such a valuable session. There are a couple of questions from the participants, sir.
Sure.
The question asked by Nilima Dongre, ma'am. Sir, as you mentioned, the receiver can compute the hash of original message and verify it, but the hash is one-way function. So how both the values will be same? If not, then which value is used to verify?
See, actually the original message is also sent. In digital signature, you are actually sender first computes the hash of the message and then digitally signs the hash and sends the hash value and the original message, both these two values, to the receiver. Since the receiver gets the original message as well in clear text, user can compute the hash value from the original message. And user gets a digital signature also from the sender, and user can decrypt the digital signature using the key of that sender, and then compare these two hash values. The hash obtained from the original message and the hash decrypted from the digital signature. So if these two hash values match, that means the message is authentic.
Okay, sir. Sir, another question is, what are the current trends in smart contract?
Current trends.
Yes.
So with respect to smart contracts, there are the first public blockchain network that supported smart contracts was Ethereum. So it's allowed smart contract programming in only the Solidity programming language, which is quite similar to the JavaScript language. So now recently, the newer blockchain networks, they are supporting smart contract programming in various other high-level languages like C++, JavaScript, Python, and various other languages. So there's an whole area of compilers and new support for new programming languages for smart contracts. So that's another area. Also, the area of consensus mechanisms on blockchain networks. So the Ethereum network, it uses a proof of work consensus mechanism, and it is actually quite slow. If you compare it with commercial payment networks, Ethereum can process only roughly 15 transactions per second, whereas Visa is able to process 45,000 transactions per second. So the whole area of consensus mechanisms, including newer mechanisms like proof of authority, proof of stake, delegated proof of stake, and PBFT and various other consensus mechanisms, that's also an active area of research.
Okay, sir. Sir, another question is, does using blockchain cost more with respect to finance? That the overall cost of IoT product, server space, processing time?
No, cost is actually reduced. Blockchain networks are peer-to-peer networks, and unless you are using your own proprietary or private blockchain network, if you are using a public blockchain network, then the costs are actually reduced as compared to networks which utilize centralized servers. The reason is, the transaction processing is delegated to other peers on the blockchain network instead of being done on the centralized cloud.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Sir, the next question is, how does the blockchain technology prevent ransom attackers?
Ransom attackers. Yeah, so one of the areas where such how blockchain technology can play a role is, directly such attacks cannot be prevented. Ransom attacks can happen. So what is a ransom attack? When a hacker hacks an IoT device and says, okay, now I have access to your IoT device, and if you don't pay me a ransom, I will not return you the access to the device, or I have actually stolen your data, and if you don't give me certain ransom, I will make your data public. So these are the ransom attacks. And how blockchain can prevent ransom attack is that we can store the configuration, latest configuration versions and the configuration data and the firmware information on a blockchain network, so that we can ensure that each and every IoT device is having the latest firmware version, which have all the security patches done. And any device is not running any old version of the firmware, which have certain vulnerabilities. So as and when the patches are released for various devices, blockchain network can be used to push the firmware updates to the IoT devices, and devices can check on the blockchain network what is the latest firmware version that is available, and it can update immediately. So it's helping in an indirect manner. It's assisting in the devices to be kept updated at all the time.
Okay, sir. The last question is how to conduct a blockchain performance analysis.
Blockchain performance analysis. Yeah. So as I discussed, this area of decentralization, scalability, and security. So these are the various aspects with respect to the performance. So there is a trade-off between these three aspects, and you can perform the analysis. The one way to benchmark the performance of a blockchain network is to see how much transaction throughput is supported by the blockchain network and what is the transaction latency. So whenever you send a transaction to a blockchain network, how much time it takes to process the network and how many transactions per second the network is processing. So you can benchmark these two things for any blockchain network and perform its see how it is performing. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. That's it from the participant sides. Thank you, sir, for conducting such informative and delivering such nice sessions and enlightening us in the area of IoT and blockchain. You nicely covers all the topic of IoT basics, the blockchain applications in various domains, their realistic use in different applications areas, which really help all the participants to develop secure IoT applications. Thank you, sir, for delivering such a nice sessions, informative sessions.
Thank you, Professor Lokesh, for your time, and thank you all the participants. I hope this session was useful to you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, please accept the small vote of appreciation, small vote of token, the virtual memento from Information Technology Department, Sakek.
Yeah, I'm really thankful to Sakek for this token of appreciation.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for this opportunity. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Now the participants, the feedback come attendance link is posted in a Q&A section. Please fill that feedback link. Dear participants, our next sessions will start at 1:45 sharp. So stay tuned.